negative reviews. And do you respond? Do you bury them? We all know removing them is near impossible.
Sometimes.
It can be done, but it's not a method that's consistent, right? So how do, I think obviously it starts at, we don't ask the angry patients for reviews, and we don't poke them. We sort of try to smooth that out before they go out and do some damage. We can't stop it after that point. I know you have some interesting tactics that you use, and I'm a huge fan of them because I think it's thought out, and I think it's thought out because sometimes you respond to them, sometimes you don't respond to them, sometimes you reach out personally, right? So talk a little bit about when you get dinged. Oh, and by the way, don't take it personally. It happens. Like, we're all in business. You're not going to make everyone happy. So let's talk about tomorrow. You get a bad one.
So I think first and foremost, the most important thing is before you do anything at all, wait 24 to 48 hours. Because your initial reaction is always anger. No matter what, no matter even if there's some truth to it or not, you're always going to read it as some hyperbole. You're always going to read it as some exaggeration. You're going to be emotionally invested into it for 24 to 48 hours. After that, it starts to wear off, and you start to be able to think sort of sanely about it. So first, get out of that first 24 to 48 hours before you do anything. Step number one to me is always read the review again, and then go read the terms of service for whatever site that the review is on. So if that's Yelp, the Yelp terms of service, or for Google reviews, the Google terms of service. Those are the rules that those two websites have that reviews have to play by. And so if you can find some way that they violated the terms of service, you can flag that review, and hopefully someone will review it and get it removed. So that's step number one. Assuming that didn't happen, assuming they didn't violate the terms of service.
It's an honest, true blue review.
So now we've got to deal with it. I think the first thing to do is let crazy be crazy. So if the review is crazy, I think most consumers are savvy enough to be able to read crazy and say like, oh, that person's crazy, and sort of mentally discard that. After that, if it's not a crazy review, if it's an honest, just something didn't go right, whatever it may be, then I think the first thing is contact the patient, right? You have the ability to contact that patient directly. You have their contact information. Maybe it's a text, maybe it's an email, maybe it's a phone call, whatever you think is going to work the best for that patient that's most likely to get them to contact you back and open a dialogue. Sometimes just listening and sometimes just letting the patient know that you're aware of the situation is enough that they'll go back and take off the review without you ever even asking them. Right?
Or edit it.
Or change it to a positive because you listened to them. It's really, that's a great opportunity to make this a good experience, because how many times have you had bad consumer experiences at a business and no one ever reached out, no one ever tried to make it right, whatever it is. So sometimes just the effort of reaching out goes a million miles. If you drop the ball, you screwed something up, a billing problem, you didn't submit to their insurance fast enough and some issue happened, or you messed up the coding up, whatever it is, if you screwed up somehow, I always say offer them a remedy, right? For dentists, it's easy to do bleaching trays, something like that, electric toothbrush or something. I wouldn't offer somebody a remedy if you didn't do something wrong, if they're just really high maintenance and are kind of a problem patient or whatever. But if you drop the ball somehow, try to make it right. And then, the biggest key is I wouldn't argue with them, right? Once you get them on the phone, once you get them where you're contacting them, I think always be polite, always be respectful, always be thankful for their input. Without their input, how would you ever know how your business is doing, right? Acknowledge their feelings. I love that. It's not so much telling them that you were wrong. It's saying like, Greg, I told you that joke and you were offended by that joke. I'm sorry that you were offended. I'm not sorry I told him the joke. I'm just sorry he was offended by it. So, it's more along the lines of, I'm sorry that you felt this about your appointment. I'm not so much apologizing for anything that happened in the appointment. I'm apologizing that you felt whatever, that those were your feelings. Right.
You're just relating to their
just acknowledge their feelings. Absolutely. And then, at the end of the day, you just don't want to get into a heated debate with them.
Well, I think if you get into a heated debate with them and they just say they just review you on Google, and then you get into a heated debate and maybe a tiny argument, they get off the phone with you and then they're like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to rip-off report, Yelp,
Now
Scambook,
now it's
and it's
hit
just
the fan.
the mushroom cloud, right?
Right.
So you do have to tread lightly with that and let them just get it out if they really go off the rails on it.
Just let them vent. You know,
Yeah.
just listen and then say, thank you so much, you know, and if that's the end of your relationship with them as a patient and a dentist, then that's fine, you know, and move it on. But I think simply a lot of times just by listening to somebody, especially if they're sane and rational, by listening to them, letting them vent, telling them, you know, that, hey, if you did something wrong, you're going to remedy it, or if there was a system malfunction, that you're going to try to fix the system. One of my favorite lines that I use in these conversations when they happen are, you know, that's a real coachable moment for me and whatever team member, Susie. That's a real this is going to be a real coachable moment for Susie and I. And I think that kind of tells them, like, hey, you're going to sit down with that person that they had the issue with and have a conversation and try to correct it and remedy it. And a lot of times those steps, you know, go a long way to making them to go back and delete a review. I never ask anybody to go back and delete a review. It's their own prerogative. I don't want to influence that. But many, many times they will, just by showing that you care.